From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
Hey, welcome to Friday. You made it. Nice job. We are Roxanne and Ace. This is Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. Of course, a place for faith, family, friends, and a place where you can chill. Like throw your feet up, relax a little bit. Let's have some conversations, catch up on the week, and know that thanks to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group, we get to spend time together. So, Roxanne, how you doing?
I'm great. How was your Father's Day?
It was great. It was one of those where we were all kind of scattered after church, so I really wasn't quite sure how it was all come together. So my son and I decided to go to my favorite wings place and get there early enough to watch the UFL Championship, which for those of us at Birmingham, Stallions with their three-peat, so that was exciting. But I was like, I don't know how many fans are going to be at the place, so if we go at when my wife and my daughter were ready, we knew it'd be halftime, so I didn't want to take any chances. So we got there early, watched the first half, and I told Ryan, I said, we're going to be here a while, order whatever you want. And he's like, oh, and he's a 13-year-old boy. He's like, woo-hoo, he's living his best life. So we're getting pickles, and he's having like 3 and 4 Dr. Peppers. And then, of course, they kicked in by halftime, and he's like, I'll be back, So, but yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I got, on my wish list, I got the John Cougar Mellencamp Lonesome Jubilee on vinyl, so added that to the collection. And then I got, because of my old eyes, right, I need my readers for everything now. As an Episcopalian, we have the Book of Common Prayer, and the only one I have is like a teeny tiny print one that I got from my ordination, and I can't read it. I'm like this, so, bringing it close and further away from my face. So when I opened my present, it was a large print of the Book of Common Prayer, and I was like, my old eyes are so happy. So
Nice.
it was fantastic.
Well, I'm so glad. Well, for Carrie Underwood and her husband, Father's Day got interesting because their Tennessee home caught on fire that evening. Flames shooting straight up into the air. The whole family was home, including the pets, and they've got 2 adorable little boys.
Yeah.
But everybody's okay.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I remember from living in Nashville, any of my friends or the artists that I knew that had these farm homes, like, you're not close to the fire station. So that was always everyone's fear of some kind of big outbreak, or like if there was a bonfire during the summer months, you're like, okay, have we had any rain? Like, you didn't play with matches in Tennessee because of things like that. So I'm glad to hear that everybody's okay.
Well, I know by now you've probably seen some video of it. The most terrifying thing, the people that were stuck upside down on that ride in Portland. I was yelling out loud. I wonder if Ace is seeing this right now, because
it was one of those, because my daughter Mia, she's very petrified, or when we went to Disney, she says she's better now, but 2 years ago she was petrified of like crazy roller coasters. But I didn't want to send it to her to only add more fear to it. And then she goes, did you see that? She goes, I'm glad I was on that ride. I was like, yeah. I was like, especially as someone who is semi-afraid of heights. Like, I'm not afraid to ride coasters because I know it's over and done and the exhilaration of it all. But hanging upside down with all the blood rushing to your head for any length of time is never a good thing to me.
Adult men were crying by the time they got to the ground because they said they really thought they might die. And one of the reasons was the strap is cutting into your body, and it's the only thing that's stopping you from falling on your head to the ground. And a lot of people say body parts fell completely asleep. So they were wondering, at 5 minutes felt like an eternity.
Sure.
At 30, when they're getting people off this ride, the fire department, people were pretty hysterical by then. And I just, I'm not a rides person, so I would have been, I can't imagine.
It probably wouldn't have stopped me from getting on something, but it would have stopped me probably from getting on something else that day. Like, I would have needed some decompression. Like, okay, not all rides are falling apart. They're not all rustic and, breaking and AI's taking over or whatever. But Could you imagine though the person that was able to hand crank that back down the like I don't know the pace of how that went, but could you imagine the franticness that they are of okay, let's go, okay, all right, tag, someone come in, finish the, and you're like doing it in rotations because it had to have been just as nervous for them as the people who were stuck.
Oh, just crazy nuttiness. Shall we talk about church hopping for a
Mm,
moment? It is becoming a stylish thing for millennials to do, according to Relevant Magazine. And one of the reasons they do this is because they don't want to get too attached in any one place.
mm,
And of course, there's church hurt.
yep,
And you've addressed this many times, Ace, but I love how you say church is full of people
yep,
and hurt people. And any church, I think it's a lot of times what you make it, what you choose for it to be.
sure. Yeah, and I've heard this, especially after years of being a part of church plants, when people, maybe leave after 6 months to a year or whatever, and they say, "Well, I just don't really feel connected." And I always have to, without judgment, say, "Well, what have you done to connect? Have you been going to small groups, or have you, invited someone to go to coffee?" Like it's not always on the staff or on the leaders. Like as congregants, you can take somebody to coffee. You can go get a burger or pizza or go to a ball game and just make connections. It doesn't even have to be deep ones, but any connection on a spiritual level becomes a deep connection because it's someone that you can lean on when you need to talk to them, or they can lean on you. And I'm always a fan of, even if you removed church from the equation, I'm always a fan of be friends with people 5 years older than you and 5 years younger than you, so that you can have, of the same sex, so that you can have the leadership in and around you. And then once you, and of course, then by adding the church component to it, it's even better of a situation because we are called to be disciples. We are called to be disciples and be discipled by others.
I think plugging in is definitely important. And as a member of a megachurch, we think, well, it's too large to get involved. But as you mentioned, small groups make all the difference. And that's where I was a leader for many years for Andrea Newell, wife to Turin Newell.
Yep.
And my life was significantly impacted not only by my friendship with her, but getting to know her husband and his finagling the deal of the century for me and my husband. We're just absolutely thrilled. It looked impossible,
Yeah.
but with Turin, when he does a mortgage, it's not impossible.
Yeah, and I love right now with the special rates at 6 and 5.5. If you're looking for it either in Alabama or Florida, he can help find those special programs and the special rates to get you in your dream home. And the summer is the time to look. Like if you get pre-approved, you know what you can afford, then go to all the open houses in your neighborhood or the neighborhoods you've dreamt about, and then know that you can afford to move into them with peace of mind. So find out more with your pre-approval at 205-259-1656 or just go to bhammortgage.com.
Well, I couldn't wait to get your opinion on this story, Ace, that restaurants are now offering, some of them, a discount for well-behaved children.
I love it, honestly. But
Really?
but I will say this, as someone who never was allowed to act inappropriate when we were out, because I knew what was waiting for me when I got not even home, like to the car. And so that was how I was raised. And my kids know, because I mean, kids are going to have energy, but the whole idea is be good in public. And then if you want to act up at home. And then at some point I can at least send you to your room, right? That's how I was raised. That's how I raised. But I like this, especially as someone who likes a rewards program. Like give me the app of, all right, kids, if you're good the whole time, look at the discount savings we'll get. And then they'll just be trained at that point, right?
Well, I'm just reminded of how many times, little babies scream and they scream right when the food gets there.
Yeah.
But now I would leave immediately. There were many times where people were eating and I was pacing with a baby because I'm not going to let a baby scream in a restaurant. I'm just not going to do it. I know kids can act up,
Yeah.
but then they need to leave the room. Uh, a lot of people are mad about this because they're like, well, who determines if my kid's well behaved? What if my kid's sick or having a bad day?
Sure.
And they're all wound up about it. So there's one restaurant, I think it's in New Jersey, that just said no children under 10 years old. That has a lot of people really upset because they feel like, well, that's discrimination against kids.
I get it. Well, and I even remember this. There were several occasions, probably more than I care to count on both hands, of when my brother and we were so excited of the going out experience of wherever we were going or whatever we were potentially going to eat, to be at the place where if we acted up before we even left the house, my parents would be quick to go, fine, we'll just have sandwiches and bologna. That's it. We're not leaving, because my mom would not and will not put up with anybody misbehaving in public, because that's a representation of her as much as it is of me. And so I knew better. And, the wrath of my parents, just so, and again, I like what you're talking about, show compassion and grace, but what if, because I've seen a lot of this on TikTok of when like a baby's crying and then an adult will just go, and the baby will like, what just happened? So what if parents just real quickly showed the mirror to how they're acting in public just for like a brief moment, if it's a temper tantrum or a dance or whatever, just to say, this is how ridiculous you look. And then they'll go, oh, I should sit in my chair and eat my mac and cheese.
Well, that reminds me of these adorable TikTok videos. I mean, Wayne and I have watched them all of if you're a dog mommy or daddy, take your hand with your partner, put your hand together in front of the dog and see what they do. And almost all of them put their paw on their hands. It's the cutest.
It's awesome. The one that I saw today, I couldn't wait to see if you saw it, or maybe by us talking about it, it'll show up on your feed later. But now with Game of Thrones and House of Dragons back on, people are making a throne out of cardboard for their cats, because a cat's demeanor is very much of a hoity-toity king or queen.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll make it and then put aluminum foil around the sword, cardboard. And then the cat's just very, and I'm like, I would not do that for Charlie, because he would seriously deem himself worthy of that throne, but it looks hilarious. So brava to those willing to go the extra mile for their kitty cat.
Oh, so sweet. All right. You're the one with teenagers. So I have to know, do they say like? This became a conversation while the whole family watches The Bachelor.
Right.
And a lot of these new young women, I mean, every other word is like. So we talk to the television. I'm like, and
Mm-hmm.
like.
Do a shot every time they say it.
Oh, well, that's an idea.
Drinking game.
Except no one would be able to move.
Right. You won't get through the credits. Yeah.
So do your kiddos say like?
No, but I think it's because my situation's very unique. I have theater kids, so they're poised for stage, and that's not their normal demeanor. Like I think because like and so, like that's your carry word to get you from thought to thought, and Ryan and Mia have no trouble stringing their thoughts together. And I say that in a very loving, professional, proud father way.
Well, add that, yes. Take time to listen. We look at Deuteronomy 28:2, and all the blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you heed the voice of the Lord your God. One of the ladies we do ministry with for many years was a drug addict and started doing fentanyl, and she knew she was going to die. And she said, God, I know you heal. I know you're real. I need you to heal me.
Yeah.
Please. And she never expected to hear from him. And he basically told her, you have to stop. And she did, and she's healed. And she's a big proponent of rehab. But she said, God hears us when we pray. And it's so inspiring to hear somebody who is instantaneously healed of anything.
Right.
My mouth just fell open because she just said, I know the next time I did drugs, I was probably going to be dead. And look what happened. He set me free.
Yeah.
And, I used to think, why don't I hear from God like other people? It was so frustrating because I thought, what's wrong with me? I'm praying, but it's not a conversation. And so I got a little notebook.
Mm.
And the first impression that came to mind, I mean, this is so elementary school, please forgive me, but I'm just being real. And I would write the first impressions down. And I just remember first thing he ever said to me was be still, which makes perfect sense for anybody who knows me. I'm kind of not still, like ever.
Right.
And so I was like, God, I think you're talking to me.
Mm.
And one of the times I remember specifically hearing from him on a prayer, I was in Walmart. And I know a lot of people love Walmart. For me, Walmart is
Yeah.
and so I'm in the frozen food section, and I got what was like a email download from God. And I thought, this is crazy. I'm at Walmart. I'm in the frozen food section. No one would believe this. Maybe I'm making it up. But God is so great in how he communicates with us if we'll just hear him.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I loved the moment when I had that clarity of, as an adult, doubting where I thought I was hearing from God. And I just blatantly asked him, I was like, show me where I heard from you that was 100% you. And he took me back to when I was 8 years old at this Christian camp. And it was that summer that he told me that I would be in music ministry. And at that time, I thought that meant, serving in a Baptist church, doing hymns, which as an 8-year-old was not what I wanted to do with my life. So now as a drummer, bassist, keyboardist, and to be leading worship in an Episcopal church is totally night and day from where I thought I would be. But what I love in that is in knowing the voice I heard that day at that age in my 8-year-old innocence, to know that that's how it still sounds today gives me a peace when I'm moving forward. So now I know the difference in his voice versus mine, but I had to shut up and listen in order to know that it was truly his voice.
Beautiful. I love that.
And now I can do it with the Roxanne blend of coffee, which only adds to the element because it's for a good cause and for ministry's sake.
Yeah, I'll take a cup out to the garden and sip it and think, God, you are so good. Here's this coffee. I mean, who am I to have my name on a coffee? It's really kind of cool.
Right.
But God does things in his own unique way. I got to pick it out. It has butterflies on the bag. It tastes and smells fantastic. But the coolest thing about it, mybrotherscup.com, click on the Roxanne blend. The coolest thing is it sends missionaries around the world in the name of Jesus, which I think is kind of cool.
Excellent. You can also find it at roxanneandace.com and get yours ordered today.
Ooh, I love that. So 40%, this is kind of a big figure. 40% of people have had some doings with somebody at the office. And why did I do that? I'm in kind of a silly mood today. Have you noticed?
That's all right.
It's called office goggles. In other words, when we're 40 hours with someone in close proximity, they look better than they would on the street. You tend to, I don't know, get all gooey about them when normally you wouldn't be all gooey about them.
Sure. Well, and there is an element that sometimes people in the office can be fulfilling a need, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever. And then you don't have the other things to worry about, right? Like I can have all the good and none of the bad. I don't have to worry about the emotional support. I don't have to worry about anniversaries and birthdays and whatever. It's whatever's in the office is in the office. And I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to tell you that's between you and the Lord because but the goggles are hazy. It is not something that is 100% real or authentic. And you could say, well, I met my, sweetheart in office.
Mhm.
Great. If that worked out for you, great. But again, It cannot be, I mean, especially in this day and age with Me Too and all these other things, you can't even like raise an eyebrow like she's cute or he's cute or nice butt or any of that stuff because everything is inappropriate. Like I like even to hold a door for a woman anymore that's not my wife, I'm like, you know,
I don't, I want the door held
I'm too
open.
chivalrous for my own good. But again, when
Yeah.
stuff like this is happening, I mean, the goggles are very real. So we have to, that's where I think our faith can keep us and shield us and make sure that people don't just see us with goggles or Google goggles.
Googly gogglies. Yeah,
It gets,
it's a little bit dangerous.
makes me
Yeah.
nervous.
To swim in the same pool where, stuff is going on. Just
That's
saying.
right.
All right, the Blue Man Group. If you've ever seen them, they're fantastic. They're literally the blue guys that bang on stuff
Yep.
all day and make music, and they're really fun to see. Well, one of the members of the group, Chris Wink, just decided, they wear a cap so their head is smooth and blue. And he got tired of having to shave all the time for that. So, he just went completely bald and made it easier for the costume, and then thought, well, now I'm bald when I'm not being a blue man. So he came up with these, and as a bald headed person, Ace, I'm missing out. He's come up with wearable head art
All right.
that's like guitars and just sparkles, that is in a mohawk. Like, I guess he has to glue it down. They did this big article and they never say how the stuff stays on his head.
Yeah.
So it must be glue. But the designs are absolutely incredible. And he says his kids like it. I don't know if they would or not.
Well,
Really.
the thing that I will say in adding to that that's so true about Blue Man is seeing their show in Chicago, because they have like the traveling cast, and then they have certain cities like Vegas, New York, Chicago, where there's the cast that's married to that theater that they're in. But when at the Chicago show, for those that have been, you know what I'm talking about, they would have a unique piece of art on the wall, and then they would have a cassette deck, which I thought was very retro Gen X-y, but a cassette deck that was hanging underneath the art. And if you put the headphones on, old retro phones, and then press play, the music that they had created was a representation to enhance the art that was on the wall. So Blue Man is more than just blue-headed men, that don't blink and are, spraying water all over their audience. There's an element to it that great art begats other art. So a painting influences a song, or a song influences a writing, or a writing influences the heart, and all of it's connected. So that I love where this is going. And as someone who is going bald, I'm okay with something to accentuate with once I get there. The fedoras will wear out at some point, and I'll just be a blue man.
Roxanne and Ace Unlimited, with wonderful friends that are willing to come and tell us what God is doing in their lives. And Mark Machen is just amazing. He and his wife, Jennifer, have Life of Faith Church. And I learned so much about grace. It was confusing to me at first as a follower of Christ to really understand, hey, we got grace. Is it cheap grace? Can I do whatever I want? The last minute say, God, forgive me. No, it's not like that at all. And I was able to learn that there. And I'm so thankful. He continues to lead this big church, lead other leaders, and has launched foreverfree.org, which is just taking off like a rocket ship. And so he's here to tell us all about that. We welcome Mark Machen. Hi, friend.
Hey, it's great to guys, great to be with you. Ace and Roxanne. I mean, it's just it's been a little bit since we've been able to talk to one another, but you guys are such a blessing. And so just grateful that we can connect again.
So Mark, tell us, what is Forever Free? Where is the vision and the idea of ministry on this coming from?
Oh, wow. So it comes out of mine and Jennifer's life story, and how the Lord set us free. So, I've been in church my whole life. My dad actually started the church that I pastor in 1980. He started that church, but even having served in ministry, I was dealing with kind of a secret addiction, a secret sin that nobody knew about, and really in the culture of the day you couldn't even talk about. And that was for me, it was an addiction to pornography. And so I know it's talked about more today with the advent of the internet, but can you imagine in the 80s and the 90s being a servant, and serving at the church, having to deal with that? Not only that, after Jennifer and I got married, Jennifer began to deal with anger, depression, just real rage issues that came out of feelings of condemnation, feelings concerning her own past, when she was a Christian but wasn't living like it. And so here we are trying to serve God. And this is the story of so many Christians. You're going to church, you're doing your best, you're trying to serve God, but yet still struggling inside, still struggling privately, still struggling maybe in your marriage, struggling in your family, struggling outside of church, and not having real answers for how to get free. And so we had actually lost hope, to be honest with you. But in 2011, the Lord completely set me free over a 6-month period, completely transformed Jennifer's life with just some truth that we weren't hearing in church, but we found in the Bible and we found in the Word, and it changed everything. And we've been free ever since. And so we started sharing these truths in 2019 in a small group that we developed called Forever Free. And then really just felt the Lord put it all together that we could launch it as a website, not only as a website, but an app for your phone, Forever Free, to help people just kind of walk through it and experience real freedom. And I'll explain more about kind of where it comes from, what the Lord showed us. But it's just powerful, and it is impacting people all around the world.
It is disgusting to me that companies are targeting children. If you miss one key on the computer, an 11-year-old is looking at something that is marked on his brain for the rest of his life. To me, that's as evil as it gets. How do we combat an industry that is trying to ruin lives?
Well, you can't combat the industry. Okay, so even in the story that Jesus told of the wheat and the tares, then he talks about hey, let them both grow until the end of the age, and then you'll know which ones are the children of God, which ones are the children of the kingdom of darkness. And so what that tells us is the kingdom of darkness will continue to grow, and the kingdom of darkness will continue to get darker. And we're seeing that in our culture. But the good news is that where sin abounds, the grace of God superabounds, and that the children of light will get brighter. And that's what I believe is going to happen in the times that we live in, is that Christians are going to wake up. They're going to awake to righteousness. They're going to let their light shine, and they're truly going to be the answer that God intended for us to be in an age of darkness and with what we're seeing. So we're not trying to combat the companies. What we're trying to do is rescue people out from the kingdom of darkness.
Well, and with any addiction, once you've had that little taste, then it's matching or intensifying every time you see something or you experience something. Talk about the importance of the transparency that you guys are having, or that others have when they share about their addictions and how they, let it take over their lives, so that it can, because again, it's like a scratch. I could have an itch, and if I just keep scratching beyond where the pleasure stops, it becomes a gash, which then bleeds and then, scabs over. So that's the same way spiritually and emotionally that happens with these kinds of things. But I think the more transparent we can be of how I fell into this after falling into this, so that we can find that true freedom.
Yeah. So the answer for me, is it was found in Scripture. So first of all, in answer to your question, Ace, Jesus talked about those, that want to follow Christ. Basically, in John chapter 3, they'll bring their works so that they can be exposed. And those that are trying to hide what they're doing are the ones that's going to end up continuing being enslaved. But it really comes down to this scripture that so many Christians know. Jesus said, "He whom the Son makes free is free indeed." All right. So if you ask most people, what is he talking about there? I say, well, we'll be free from hell. We'll be free from, and you'll get a whole lot of different answers. But what was the context of what Jesus was saying? And what he said, he was talking about sin. He was talking about being a slave to sin. And he said, "He whom the Son makes free is free indeed." Now, here's the problem. I wasn't free. Jennifer wasn't free. And quite frankly, nobody I knew was free. So internally, now I could never say this in church, but internally, I was thinking, well, if Jesus came to set me free from sin, then he didn't do a very good job. Got to get you thrown out of some pulpits.
Fair.
But the question is this just pretend? Is it just we're just going to say these things? It's a nice, cute verse. It's a nice, cute phrase that we say, but the reality of it is we don't experience it.
Yeah.
No, Jesus came to actually deliver us from it, and so yes, transparency is key. One of the first things that we do in Forever Free is we walk people through it. Is if they don't acknowledge what's going on in their life, if you're not bringing it to the Lord, if you're not, even when John the Baptist was baptizing people, it says that they were confessing their sins as they were being baptized. So you see this move where thousands of people were coming and they were being very open and very transparent. This is the thing that I'm turning away from. This, I'm turning to God. I confess this. So it's really important because Jesus can't set you free from what you're not willing to acknowledge is holding you in bondage.
Oh, that's really, really powerful. And then we've got to really dig in and let God handle it. I think a lot of times we think we got it. Yeah, I won't look at that again. I won't drink this again. I won't do that again. And willpower is, well, it only can take us so far.
Well, here's the secret. The secret is, Jesus also says in John 8, think around 32, he says, "If you continue in my word, you'll be my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." Well, when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute. I've been trying to free myself. I've been trying to overcome sin myself. I've been trying to do it, like you said, out of my own effort, my own willpower. But actually, my job is to discover unchanging truth that changes me. If I can discover the truth, and Jesus said the truth will make me free, not that I will make me free, not that I did everything right to make me free. I've just got to discover that truth and allow his truth to actually create change in my life. And so the change you experience becomes effortless compared to everything you've tried in the past.
Well, and even the freedom or the truth of the freedom of why am I continuing in this behavior? Because, for some, it could be a past hurt. It could be a lack of father-mother in a relationship or whatever. And I like being able to get to the root of, okay, God, why am I even doing this? So that we can then cut ties, sever, whatever, and heal from it. So then the thing that we're feeling it's not a desire anymore.
Yeah, but you can actually take it a step further than even that. Because if you go back to a hurt or to, a generational thing, right, that's happening in your family, I just tell people, well, just keep going back to your father, to your grandfather, and just stay all the way down to the line to your very first relative, and that's Adam, because that's what introduced the sin nature and us being a slave to sin. But the truth is, 2 Corinthians 5:17, it tells us that whoever is in Christ is a new creation. He's not just a changed person. He's not just going through a transformation process. You are brand new. And so, for instance, 1 Corinthians 15 calls Jesus the last Adam. So there's first Adam and there's last Adam. And the one that you identify with is the one that's going to determine how you live your life. Are you a descendant of first Adam, or are you a descendant of last Adam, Jesus? Because that changes everything.
Well, it's new covenant grace, and it sets you free when you have that. When we're not, it's not all about laws. You do this, you don't drink that, you don't do this. It's about Christ and what Christ did on the cross. And when we fully embrace and accept that, it's just life changing. And this sounds so simple. It really does. But we humans want to get this. We want to get after it ourselves. We want to do it ourselves. And this requires surrender.
Well, we love rules. Our
Yes.
flesh, if we're going on a diet, please tell me what to eat. Please tell me if we go to the gym, please tell me what to do. We want somebody to tell us what to do, and we want rules. Okay. But grace doesn't work that way. Grace and the righteousness of God isn't something that's earned, it's something that's given. And so my favorite scripture, Romans 5:17, it's what we build this whole course upon. Romans 5:17, for if by the one man's offense death reigned through the one, that's talking about what Adam did, much more those who receive abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness, they will rule and reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. So all I need to know is, so if I'm not ruling and reigning in life the way that Jesus intended for me to, then it means I haven't truly received the abundance of grace, and I really haven't received the gift of righteousness.
Pastor Mark Machen has been our guest. If you want to find out more about his ministry and how you can be forever free, go to foreverfree.org. Pastor Mark, always a joy to have you on, man. Come back anytime.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. So be blessed. Thank you for having me on.
I know that as we wind down the week, we always like to check in on each other's vibes. So Roxanne, what's your vibe this week?
So I got a floating lounge chair, and it hangs from a hook, and it has a canopy over it, and it's like floating. It gently rocks. It's awesome. So putting it together was nightmarish.
Right.
Like, I put it on halfway backward, and my sweet husband had to kind of take it apart and put it back. But we got it carried out there into the yard, which was a big deal. And here I am showing off to my new neighbor, Linda, and like, Linda, come see my floating lounge. You will love it. You must experience it. So we get out there, and she's like, I don't know how to get into that thing. Why don't you do it? Oh, so here I'm just, and I go flying.
Oh, no.
There goes. And it's like a projectile. So I'm whoosh. And as I'm going, I'm looking at my tomatoes, where I'm about to meet my tomatoes with my face.
Oh, no. Where is TikTok video for that? That's what, no, I'm just kidding. I'm glad you're okay. But
I was able to recover, no damage. She didn't laugh, even though it was highly amusing. And so floating lounge chair is staked. Thank you very much.
Not for the faint at heart, clearly. All right. Well, my vibe for the week, if you haven't seen it yet on Hulu, the documentary on the Brat Pack, Andrew McCarthy and his new production company, he went back and pulled as many of the actors from that era that were considered Brat Pack. So the only two that weren't in this was Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson, but he talks to Demi Moore and Ali Sheedy and Rob Lowe and everyone from that era, because the thing that I will say that I liked about it, and it's kind of been met with mixed reviews. I think people expected it to be just this big hug, and it really is Andrew coming to terms with, he hated the term Brat Pack. And so it really kind of steered his career and his mindset into a direction that he felt was out of his control. But what I love, as someone who also has had that self-reflection on something that I thought was negative or that affected me in a certain way, you look back or you process it through older eyes, and then you have the perspective of people who were around you at that time. And so like Demi and Rob and Emilio, they're all like, well, here's how I see it now. And they really kind of give him that freedom, that clearance of, okay, this wasn't as bad of a thing as I thought, and it will be with me forever, even beyond my years, that I'll always be known as a member of the Brat Pack. So I enjoyed it for all the nostalgia, because I was that kid. I was just a few years younger than their ages, so I wanted to be in the Brat Pack. So anytime there was a movie of them, I'm like, ooh, and it also lifts the veil that they were all friends hanging out at each other's houses and stuff. But it's totally worth it. And if anything, reflective and a reminder that as we process things with God, to say, okay, my worst thing was not as bad as I thought, or people didn't recognize it the way that I saw it. So sometimes we're a little too close to that canvas and we can kind of burn that bridge for the most part, but worth the watch, worth the streaming for sure. We appreciate you hanging out this week. We want to say thanks again to Pastor Mark for giving us his insights and wisdoms and helping us in our own freedoms. And as well to My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group for being a part of this week's episode. Roxanne, have a great weekend. I love you.
Love you so much.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at RoxanneandAce.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.